Welcome back to Inside Politics. We're talking today to Dr. John Weil from Middle Tennessee State University, political science professor there. We're talking about the situation with impeachment, and in this segment, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Syrian situation. Dr. Weil, the president decided to remove what American troops were left in northern Syria. That opened the door for the Turks to invade and take over quite a bit of land, kill some people among the Kurds, and basically set up about a 20-mile square radius that they've taken over, and the Russians are now helping them patrol that. The president said this has all worked. There's now permanent, he says there's a permanent ceasefire sort of in there, and everything's worked out just great. What has it done to American foreign policy?
Well, you know, we've been allied with the Kurds for a long time, and anytime you pick up and run and leave allies on their own, I mean, you think about it, I believe that I'm right. I believe there were only about 100 troops that were directly in the area that Turkey was trying to invade. Once they left, something like, at last count, 176,000 people were displaced. That is that's a catastrophe of great magnitude, however you got it.
And where does it leave us if you're going to go talk to South Korea? Are they going to be looking over their shoulder?
Well,
Western Europe going to be looking over their shoulder? We're still going to be there as their ally?
You know, one of the places that we've already been sending diplomats is, Kurdistan in Iraq. They're the same ethnic group, and we've been in the similar relationship to them, so it certainly raises questions. Now,
there's quite a bit of defections about this, a lot of criticism coming from Republicans about this, including from our two senators, but on the same hand, this doesn't seem to be breaking down the wall on impeachment. The Republicans are still strongly supporting against impeachment. Is it going to stay like that? There's no reason to believe that what's going on in Syria, that what the president has done, is in any way an impeachable offense. So why would it have an impact on what's going on with impeachment?
I think it just sort of called, it's not necessarily that we should have left troops in Syria forever, but we seem to have done it on a whim. And remember, this is sort of the second whim. I mean, we had a similar threat a year or two ago, and the generals talked him out of it. They've apparently now resigned, and he just, it just seemed to come out of the blue. And yes, there are some times where if your enemy doesn't know your hand, that's desirable. But if you're advising the president and you don't know from one day to another what his actions are going to be, this sort of undermines confidence in how big an asset is he to the Republican Party.
We've mentioned that Mitch Romney is certainly one. Mitt Romney is talking about possibly defecting. Another one that seems to get on the list of people senators that might decide to be against the president, I find kind of strange, and that's Lamar Alexander, since his last statement about this said it would be a mistake to impeach the president. We better let the public to decide who continues to be president in 2020. So why does Senator Alexander wind up on these lists?
My guess would be, if you compare the U.S. House of Representatives, who have 2-year terms, to those of the Senate, which has 6, the original idea was that those in the Senate would have greater flexibility. They would be more likely to oppose, and in this case, Alexander's coming to the end of his term. He has to be thinking, already has a pretty good legacy, but, depending on the outcome, what do you want your legacy to be?
So you don't necessarily see the linkage from the fallout he's gotten from Syria necessarily impacting what's going on with the impeachment, except that perhaps whatever else comes afterwards might build on that?
Right. I mean, again, I don't think it's an impeachable offense, but, part of it is, it's not just are you going to vote for it, against it, how strongly you're going to be for it, against it.
There are people in the Republican Party who are urging the president to get a chief strategist. Have you felt in watching the president that there hasn't been a real strategy, not only necessarily about what's going on with impeachment, but Syria and other things? He tends to be his own, not only his own president, but his own chief spokesperson. He's doing all these chopper talk meetings every day. Sometimes you want to be out in public, but do you want to be that much exposed every day to have to talk to the people?
It's, in some ways, in terms of popularity, it seems to have worked for him. In terms of strategy and day-to-day politics, I think it'd be great if he had a chief of staff who could keep him under control a little bit. He's shown that's not going to happen.
Well, basically at this point there were people who felt in the past he had people he could rely on that would be a brake on him. Has he now gotten a staff and a White House behind him that basically he can do whatever he wants to do, and there's nobody saying, wait a minute?
And particularly if you look, he had as many generals probably in his cabinet and as advisors as any recent president has, and to my knowledge they're all gone.
The controversy, I think, as you mentioned, has not shaken the support of the president among his base, which is somewhere around low to mid 40s, maybe sometimes into the upper 30s. But it does appear we are headed towards a 2020 election like none other except perhaps the Civil War in 1860.
Or the last one.
Or the last one. But this one, it seems to have only built off what happened in 2016.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fortunate thing, you know, we do talk about red and blue states, and to some degree they're geographically based, but you know the problem with the Civil War is you could actually divide North into South, and you know who was going to fight whom. It was, you know, the whole country would be a little bit like Tennessee in the Civil War, as even within the same states, you have pretty vigorous disagreements.
And we're not mixed up, we're not in separate parts of the country. We're kind of mixed up. Everybody lives in their own little bubble.
Right, we do. And social media has led to a lot of that.
Dr. Val, thank you so much for coming on this. And I suspect we'll be back to talk some more. Who knows, the things we're talking about now may be wrong by the time we air the show.
Yes, they might.
And thank you so much for joining us here on Inside Politics. Hope you'll be back here again for a future show. If you can't get enough politics in the meantime, go to the News Channel 5 website. You'll find my Capitol View commentary there. The Zoo commentary posted every Friday afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you back here next time. Goodbye.